Welcome back, baseball fans, to an introduction to the 1974 Winter Baseball Classic. Today, I'm just going to do an introduction to what the project is. You may have seen the Winter Baseball Classic the last 4 or so years. It's a short little tournament that I do as a spring training, you could say, before the Summer League, after the Fall League ends, between, Super Bowl week and then before St. Patrick's Day, the spring training months. The origin of this is rather interesting in that the Winter Baseball Classic I've done for a longer time than the carryover leagues. So let me explain. Back in the 1990s, I started a mixed card league of one season. And what I really wanted to do as an experiment was to take an entire card set and completely shuffle up all the cards like it's a poker game and just deal out hands or deal out stacks of cards randomly. And I randomly chose 20 stacks of cards to use. I once did it with 30 teams, but I did it with 20 stacks of cards, and they would just be Team A, Team B, Team C, etc. But I decided to give them names that weren't your Major League Baseball team names, since it's going to be a mixed bag of Major League Baseball teams. So what I did was I just came up with places that I liked or had been to associate and give them a baseball franchise. And these are the names that are currently in play. Rhode Island, presumably out of Providence. Vancouver Island, playing out of Victoria, across the Port Angeles Ferry. Coney Island in New York. Halifax, Nova Scotia. Savannah, Georgia, a place I love, one of my favorite places to visit. St. Petersburg, Florida, home of the Dali Museum. Athens, Georgia. Charleston, South Carolina. Mississippi. This one is almost considering the notion that it's on the Mississippi River, that there's one of the big barges or that they put on the river for gambling. They actually can put a baseball field on one of those. That was my big joke with that one. Memphis, of course, Memphis, Tennessee. New Orleans, largest city here that doesn't have a baseball club. Interesting. Tucson, Arizona. SeaTac, the between Seattle, Tacoma. Missoula, Montana, great college town. Hollywood, California, and Chula Vista, or down south of San Diego, around Coronado, Cardiff by the Sea, etc. And then to this, because I gave you 16 names, the other 4 names were the Portland expansion team and the Las Vegas expansion team that I eventually migrated into the Summer League that They're in the Mountain Time Zone with Arizona and Colorado. We got the Ohio Players team playing in the American League North. And these were fictional, these 3. So I had Burlington was originally called the Burlington Greencoats, as named after the Green Mountain state of Vermont, Burlington, Vermont. But being that when I was in Burlington, I traveled up to Montreal, recognized that it's not a long drive. It was 2-3 hour drive, something like that. I repurposed the Expos franchise to Burlington, Vermont as part of the introduction of names. There were other names as well that I've mostly forgotten, and they were from the upper middle part of the country. It was, let's see, it was Des Moines, I remember. Let's see if I can remember writing them down. Iowa City, I think it was 10 of them. There was Fargo. There was Minot, North Dakota. Let's see, Boise. There was Wyoming, playing out of Cheyenne. Again, there was Colorado, the Colorado Rockers, which is different than the Colorado Rockies, and 3 more. I can't recall. Oh, yes, we had Wall Drug in South Dakota, and Sturgis, where they had the big bike rally, South Dakota as well, near Mount Rushmore, I believe, something like that. And one more. Oh, boy, it's going to be incomplete without doing the other one. So 2 in North Dakota, 2 in South Dakota. There's usually 2 in each state. 2 in Iowa, 2 in North Dakota, 2 in South Dakota, Idaho, Colorado, Wyoming. Can't remember the other one. All right. Can't figure it out, folks, but you get the idea. Point being is, it was just fictional places to put a baseball team. So that's what I did back in the 90s. And I'd stopped playing cards for a decent chunk of time and started back up again in the early 2000s. And the way this came into its consecutive form, year-to-year form, is that it was after the 2007 Super Bowl. I just can remember flipping on the TV, and I was watching the Pebble Beach Pro-Am and thinking that I'd rather be playing baseball or watching it. So I thought maybe I can just squeeze in a little baseball tournament, after the Super Bowl, because watching the Pebble Beach Pro-Am wasn't entertaining enough. Before March Madness, before the baseball season started. And that's where I did the very first one, where it was simply these 16 teams with choosing 20-man rosters of 1 year. Well, eventually, I kept a history here. Going all the way back to 2006, 2007, and I had the team who won it all there. And I've got the lifetime records of doing this thing from 2006 to 2025, last year. It also tells me which franchises won it the most and which franchises haven't won it. Savannah, I believe, has won it 4 times, the most. Hollywood has won it 3 times. And interesting, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams have never won it. So that's kind of weird. I thought it would be mostly a random event. 2,461 games. As the tournament, it's about 120 to 130 games overall. This is the results of last year, in which Missoula, Montana won with an 18-10 record. And this is the results of last year. Missoula winning at 18-10, and then these are the teams that were knocked out. The way the tournament works, I'll just kind of get you the rules of this before I get into why I find it so important to me now. First round is seeding from last year's 1-loss record, 1-4 in each division. The greens are in the Northeast mostly, called the Island because of Coney Island, Rhode Island, Vancouver Island, and Halifax, Nova Scotia, even though this one is way out west. Then we have down south, we have 4 towns that are reasonably close. Then near the Mississippi River, Gulfport, except for Tucson, which had to move. These guys had to move, those guys had to move. Now, in the far west, you have up in the north, Seattle and Tacoma, Missoula, and then in the southwest. So you play a best of 7. Then the winner's bracket and a loser's bracket is set up, and that's a best of 5. The losers of the loser's bracket are done after losing 7 games total there. And then after that, the winner's bracket gets byes, and you can see these teams have 7 victories there, and there. And the other 8 teams are sorted 5 through 12. And then after that, they play a best of 3, and then back to a best of 5. And then when we get to the final 4, it's best of 7, best of 7. And it adds up to about 130 games. And I can play this generally between, say, after the Super Bowl, Valentine's Day, getting it all together, through St. Patrick's Day, or at least right before I do the draft for the Summer League. So with all that, I want to get to the organization of the stats and why it's important for me to do this now. So I have a tab here created, and it is a 640 total cards of the 1974 card set. It also is 320 cards of the last 3 Winter Baseball Classics from 73, 72, and 71. So that's 640, 320, 320, 320 is 1,600 records. And I scroll down, and I get 1,600 records. So this is the start of my data crunching here. Going all the way back to the reading off at the bottom, these are the players who played in the 1971 Winter Baseball Classic, and they're sorted under the abbreviation of the Winter Baseball Classic team name. You scroll up from the bottom, then you're into the 72 season, and you scroll up again until you're into the 73 season. Again, this is just letting me know what player played for that particular Winter Baseball Classic team in those 3 Winter Baseball Classics. And then you get to 640, and this is actually the pertinent cards that have a value in the year of 1974. At the very bottom here, these are the purple, we call nameless cards. These are the added written-in cards I create when I do an individual season draft that aren't played. In other words, Strat-O-Matic might make 576, 580, 620 Strat-O-Matic cards. So I increase the population by getting limited stats, and a lot of these stats are limited to, say, 20-some innings, 20, 30 innings, maybe 20, 30 at-bats, of players who have an association with a major league team. And that is so that I can do a 640-player draft of 32 teams, 20 players per team, by distributing these nameless cards to those teams as well. There's no practical reason to play a 640-player league individual season. It's just building up talent, distributing it over 32 teams for the purpose of the carryover league. Above that, in this area here, this is the significant part I really want to mention in this. These players are free agents that have not made the league yet. Starting at record number 513 and concluding at record 575. So that's about 62 or so players. If they are in white or clear like that, it means they've never been drafted before. If they have a red, blue, or yellow designation, it means they were on waivers last time they were in the carryover league, but never were picked up. They were ignored. Or they made the retirement list and never were pulled out of retirement. Or they were somebody's keeper, but the team decided not to keep them. So there's also those designations are all mixed in as available cards. Now above that, at record 512, is the column sort of alphabetical Major League Baseball team. And this is something we definitely know here. These cards are actually players in our summer league. There would be 6 of them per team in dark green here. Like give me Baltimore: Paul Blair, Bobby Grich, Brooks Robinson, Bill Sharp, Earl Williams, Cuellar. So because these cards are already in a different collection. They're in the carryover league box. They do not play in the Winter Baseball Classic. In addition to that, you see in the light green area, these are players who are playing for the Arizona, but they're doing it in a different card in the Summer League, and this is the 1974 card of that player. You see, these are all 74 cards. This is telling me that Steve Braun, Pedro Garcia, Ed Herman, Darryl Knowles, they all have a 75 or a 76 card in our Summer League. Then we have the players designated as keeper, retired, and waivers. These are all cards that need a look at. And these 8 designate, mostly it's 8, sometimes it might be 7 or fewer. It doesn't have to be 8 because some retired players obviously aren't going to be here. There will definitely be 2 wavered players. There might not be a 4th keeper if that player did not play in 74, but he played in 75 or 6 or 7. But that cluster of players, the guys who are keepers, retires, and waves, are going to form the population for this year's Winter Baseball Classic, plus trying to get as many of these free agents as possible to play as well. And that point of the Winter Baseball Classic is to get our eyes on these free agents, as many as we can. And it's only about 60-some players. Try and draft these into the Winter Baseball Classic. If you're wondering, they have been available for the last 3 carryover leagues, but weren't selected, mostly because of performance, because they're not particularly good. However, there's a caveat about a player getting selected in his final year of eligibility when a team decides to improve a 1974 player that they presently have on their roster and move him into a different year in 75, 76, or 77. So if teams start needing more 74 guys, they might have to look here and find one of these lower quality players to fill a roster spot, because they improved a player, so when the Major League Baseball draft ends, they don't have a 20-man roster, they only have 19 or 18. The upside of signing one of these guys is that he's only on your roster for 1 year. So what we're really looking at is your backup catcher, utility infielder, corner outfielder, long reliever, number 4 starter. You know, is he a switch hitter? Does he have power? Can he bunt? Can he hit and run? You know, is there any, value in some of these lower quality players? Because a team will accept a low quality player on a 1-year deal versus the worst case is a bad player on a 4-year contract in 1977, or a 3-year contract in 76, or a 2-year contract in 75. So you'll put up with an inadequate player for the short term, the 1 year. So let's take a look at the next sort here, and I'll show you how the data is collected now. I've resorted, and I've used a code in this column here. So because you see dark green, these cards, Glenn Abbott, Jack Aker, Alomar, Auerbach, Barr, all those cards are in the year of 1974, and this is telling me there are 6 cards numbered 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's telling me 7403, 7405, for instance. It's also going to put in here if that player was in a previous Winter Baseball Classic, because I'm trying to get all of these players excluded from the data that needs to be draft eligible. So in the case, for instance, let's go to Jack Aker. It's a good example. So his 74 card is presently on Colorado Rockies in the Summer League. This information is telling me that in 1973, in 1972, and in 1979 Winter Baseball Classics, he was assigned to New Orleans. So what this will also tell me, because we're coming off of the 1973 season, is that New Orleans is going to have a hole on their roster for what Jack Aker is or was, which is a relief pitcher. So they should look for that replacement in the draft because he's not available. Let's take a look at Paul Blair. Paul Blair, Baltimore center fielder. He was assigned to Missoula in 73, 72, and 71. MSL, MSM, MSL. All 3 years. So we know that Missoula, Winter Baseball Classic franchise, needs a center fielder this year to replace Paul Blair because Paul Blair is unavailable. His card is in the 1974 box. A lot of times, it is consistent from 1 year to the next in a Winter Baseball Classic, but it's not 100%. In the case of Dave Cash here, 73, he played for Savannah. 71, he played for Hollywood. Chances are 72, he probably played in Major League Baseball with that particular card versus the other ones. So what this does is, this is the exclusion list that I know I can't draft from. And I page down, and I've eliminated 415 players. Now, here's another group of players who have availability, and they're good players. These are all-stars, starting players, maybe a Hall of Famer or two. But they're playing in the carryover league in a different year. Here's Johnny Bench, for instance. So Johnny Bench is playing with a 75 card. Now, I could use his 74 card for the Winter Baseball Classic, but that would take up a roster spot of a player that I would need to evaluate. This group of players is simply kind of the last-ditch talent pool for the draft. It's like, I know they're good, right? We know they're good players. They're already in the carryover league. This is an alternate year for them. But I really want to get my eyes on keepers, waves, retires, and free agents. So at least this section is in one area for drafting and analysis purposes. It's all in one section here. And it goes down to record number 537. Next up are the keepers in alphabetical order by player. And we really want to get our eyes on these keeper cards and see how the 74 card plays. We've done evaluations of all the keepers to figure out what is their best year, 74, 75, 76, or 77. But we'd like to take a look at these 74 cards. If we don't think that we want them in 75, 76, or 77. And so the other part of the sort is, where did this player play the last time he was in the Winter Baseball Classic? Well, in the case of Hank Aaron, 1973, he didn't play in the Winter Baseball Classic because he played in the major leagues with that card. The 71, same thing. The 71 Hank Aaron card was also in the major league section. The 72 Hank Aaron card played for South Carolina, SCM. So that means that I may want to reassociate Hank Aaron with this franchise in Winter Baseball Classic, SCM, South Carolina. And the point for that, for me, is to get some consistency with players associated to Winter Baseball Classic franchises, to kind of get a consistent match. For instance, we know Johnny Bench, Cincinnati Reds. Carl Yastrzemski, Boston Red Sox, right? I mean, it'd be nice if there were some consistencies in the Winter Baseball Classic as well. My thought of this was, what if players simply migrated to the closest geographical Winter Baseball Classic town? Because it's not in the Cactus League or the Grapefruit League. It's not in Florida or Arizona exclusive. It's all over, the U.S. and in Canada, Atlantic provinces, whatever. Not very realistic with the cold, bitter winter weather. Imagine they play in indoor dome stadiums. I don't know. It's a premise. It's a fiction, folks. But the point is that as I play this year to year, I like to recall players who have played for that franchise in the past and keep them going in that league. So I keep the associations for keeper players for a player. For instance, Dick Allen, of course, from the White Sox. So in 73, he played with Vancouver. In 71, he played for Hollywood. So he could play in either of those or another team. And then the list goes alphabetically, as we can see. And this is why I folded in those Winter Baseball Classic results. Because here's a case of Fritz Peterson. 73, 72, and 71, he played for the Coney Island Cyclones. So chances are he'll play there again. Makes it very easy at this point to assign a player to a particular Winter Baseball Classic franchise. By the way, Tom Seaver is interesting. Tom Seaver and Jim Palmer, two Hall of Famers, were both assigned to Coney Island. But a lot of times, they weren't on the staff at the same time, and sometimes neither were. Why? Because they're great. Because that particular card was probably in the Major League box. So very seldom was Seaver and Palmer playing on a Winter Baseball Classic team at the same time. Matter of fact, Jim Palmer is not available. He's in his 75 card, so he's not going to be here. Seaver's card is up. And the last time he was in Winter Baseball Classic was 72. So Coney Island's like, we get one of our guys back. We didn't get Palmer, but we got Seaver playing for us. With the 74 Tom Seaver card to be evaluated, as we don't know if the Mets are going to take the 75, 76, or 77 Tom Seaver card. They got to play that card in the tournament and see how Tom pitches, Then you have guys we put on the retired list. It's not going to be a big list because in theory, they're retired. In essence, they simply became ineffective or didn't play a lot. Some of them have Winter Baseball Classic history. In the case of Glenn Beckert, Ray Corbin, Mike Ryan. The waiver one is very critical. Of all the groups, waivers is most critical because, let's face it, the keepers are pretty obvious. Your Major League Baseball team knows the plan for keepers. But waivered players could go anywhere. There's 64 of them. So knowing which good 1974 waivered players exist is a really key component to this. So again, I do the same thing here with players. I try and get them to a Winter Baseball Classic team they played for in the past. And this is alphabetically. Until we get our big group of undrafted free agents, all nice and clean now in one global pink color. This has not changed at all. This is basically this section of hitters here, starting with catchers, first base, second base, outfield. This is the same draftable collection that's in the Summer League. Copy and pasted directly in. So they're available here. And again, they could play in both or neither. They could play in both leagues or neither league, is the way to look at it. And then you have the pitchers. So again, these guys are going to have limited value, but I've really incentivized myself to get a look at them, to see if they have some value, because I'm going to need some of these guys. Which ones? Waiver guys. Next priority. Want to see how the waiver wire looks. Retires not that critical because we know they're near the end of their career. Keepers should make up, because of the population, there's 128 keepers. They're going to make up a big chunk of the population. They're a bigger population than waivers, twice as many, but not as hypercritical because we know generally have scouted out the keepers. And lastly, we get, again, this group of players who are playing a 75 or 76 card, who are very good players. They're just for if you're stuck and you're trying to field a team and you don't have enough pitchers or hitters, catcher, first, second, third, short, outfield, or you don't have enough lefties or righties. You only want to pull from this pool of players if you can't put a 20-man roster together out of the keepers, waives, retires, and free agents. And then you have to weigh a really, really bad pitcher who just, I mean, competitively, it doesn't matter who really wins the tournament. It is exhibition, and it's sort of like what I like to say. It's like spring training baseball. It's at least it's competitive because all teams have glaring weaknesses on them. So there's usually not a powerhouse team. But we'll pause it here and pick up next time with the draft results. But I wanted to just kind of go through it this way to show you how. And then, of course, we pulled out. Now you'll notice this was an order by year before. Now it's an order by alphabetical player name. So we still have 1,600 in this data set. It's just been sorted differently for viewing purposes. So next time up, we will have a draft result and then start playing games for the Winter Baseball Classic. Just wanted to show you the importance of that I do it so that I'm looking at mostly undrafted free agents, the waiver pool, keepers. It's a scouting move. The point of handling all these cards together and reconfiguring them for these games is so that I get more information when it comes to the draft for our summer league, which commences around St. Patrick's Day. So thanks for checking this out. Hope you enjoyed the deep dive here. We'll see you next time.